where armies marched and kings ruled with iron certainty. In that world lived a man named Naaman, a commander, a warrior, a national hero. When Naaman walked through the streets of Syria, people stepped aside. Children whispered his name. Soldiers straightened their backs. He was the kind of man who seemed untouchable, strong, respected, successful. But even the strongest people carry battles no one else sees. And Naaman had one he couldn't hide forever. Under the armor, beneath the medals and the confidence, Naaman had a disease, leprosy, a word that carried fear, shame, and isolation. It didn't matter how powerful you were. Leprosy didn't care. Imagine him waking up in the morning, washing his face, and seeing the spots spreading. Imagine the quiet moments when he wondered how long he could keep it hidden. How long before people looked at him differently. Even heroes have moments of fear. But help was going to come from the most unexpected place. In Naaman's household lived a young Israelite girl, a captive taken during a raid. She had every reason to be bitter, every reason to stay silent. But she wasn't. One day, she spoke to Naaman's wife with a simple, hopeful sentence. If only my master would go to the prophet in Samaria, he would heal him. Just imagine that. A child, a servant, someone with no power, no status. Yet she carried the key to Naaman's healing. Sometimes the smallest voices point us toward the biggest miracles. Naaman grabbed onto that hope like a lifeline. He went straight to his king, who sent him off with letters, gifts, and a caravan fit for royalty. Silver, gold, fine clothing. Naaman was ready to pay whatever it took. He traveled south, crossing borders and deserts, until he reached the king of Israel. But the king panicked. He thought it was a trap. Am I God? He cried, Can I heal anyone? But word reached the prophet Elisha, who sent a message. Send him to me. So Naaman went, chariots, horses, soldiers, all stopping outside a humble house in a quiet town. Naaman waited for the prophet to come out. Surely Elisha would greet him with honor. Surely he'd wave his hands, call on God, and perform something dramatic. But Elisha didn't even step outside. Instead, a messenger came to the door and said, Go wash in the Jordan River 7 times, and you'll be healed. That was it. No ceremony, no respect, no moment worthy of a commander. Naaman's face burned with anger. The Jordan? That muddy river? Aren't the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? He turned his chariot around, furious. This wasn't how healing was supposed to look. This wasn't how important people were treated. It's hard to accept help when it doesn't come the way we expect. It's even harder when pride gets in the way. As Naaman stormed off, his servants, the men who had marched with him, trusted him, admired him, rode up beside him. One of them spoke softly. Master, if the prophet had asked you to do something difficult, wouldn't you have done it? Why not try something simple? It was a moment of truth. Naaman looked at the river in the distance. Brown, ordinary, unimpressive. But sometimes healing begins with humility. So he turned his horse toward the Jordan. The river was cool, murky, quiet. Naaman stepped in, the water rising around him. His soldiers watched from the bank, silent. He dipped once, nothing. Twice, still nothing. 3 times. 4, 5. Maybe he felt foolish. Maybe he wondered if he'd been tricked. 6. And then the 7th time. Naaman came up from the water and looked at his skin. The spots were gone. The pain was gone. His skin was restored, smooth, healthy, like the skin of a child. A grown man, a hardened warrior, stood in the river stunned, overwhelmed, maybe even trembling. Healing had come, not through power, not through wealth, but through obedience and humility. Naaman rushed back to Elisha's house, this time not demanding, not expecting, but grateful. He stood before the prophet and said, Now I know there is no God in all the world except in Israel. He offered gifts, but Elisha refused. Healing wasn't for sale. Naaman asked for something else instead, soil from Israel, so he could worship the God who healed him even when he returned home. He wasn't just healed on the outside. Something inside him had changed too. We don't know what happened to Naaman after he returned to Syria. We don't know how people reacted when they saw him healed. We don't know how his life unfolded. But we do know this. A powerful man learned humility. A captive girl became a messenger of hope. A prophet showed that God's power isn't limited by borders or expectations. And a muddy river became the place where pride washed away and healing began. Naaman's story reminds us that help can come from unexpected places. That healing sometimes begins with listening. That pride can keep us from the very thing we need. And that God often works through simple steps, quiet voices, and ordinary moments. It's a story about a man who thought he needed a miracle. But what he really needed was a change of heart.